You know, people, for some reason, man, when you look at the history books, and it's funny, last night I was looking at Marley Marl.
Yeah.
And saying how Marley Marl
dangerous
was, I want to say Marley Marl was the second super producer. The first super producer in hip hop, I want to say, was Larry Smith.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? Larry
God
Smith.
bless the dead.
God bless the dead.
Right.
But then when you look at the history books, man, it's like, you know, cats don't say Erick Sermon in the same sentence that they'll say a Dr. Dre.
Right.
But when you talk to somebody like a Pharrell.
Yeah, Pharrell. Yeah, he loves me.
Every time you said it got to a point where it was
he was like, yo,
he
bows down, stop bowing.
Yeah, you feel funny.
Feel funny.
Tell us about why Pharrell holds you in such high esteem.
He just feels that, again, at the end of the day, like, you know, I told you, I met Pharrell doing Blackstreet.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing a song called Booty Call, which was Blackstreet's first single. And
that was a big album, by the way.
He was in the studio with Chad and a singer called Mike. And I'm like, yo, who are y'all? I said, oh, you know, the Neptunes, you know, whatever. We work with Ted. So Teddy Riley. And Teddy Riley had Michael Jackson outside the tour bus.
Okay.
The illest part of the story is the fact that I didn't give a fuck if Michael Jackson was out there. I was in the studio with Teddy Riley.
Right.
And that kicked my ass.
Was that when they were working on Remember the Times?
Listen, man, don't even say all that, because it's going to make me mad. Because.
Why?
You heard what I just said?
I heard what you said.
Michael Jackson's in the bus.
Right.
I didn't ask to go meet him, to go see him, or nothing.
Right.
Because I was there with Teddy
Riley, who was the king at the
time. He was one of them. He was doing what I was doing.
Right. So you're saying you're such a music man,
right?
That no matter how legendary, and of course after his death, Michael Jackson became but as legendary as Michael Jackson was, it didn't matter to you because Teddy Riley was changing music.
It wasn't even that. I had to be retarded,
right?
And I want to use that word because again, it didn't. Again, you're right. It wasn't the fact that it was. I don't know what made me not go say what's up to Michael Jackson,
right?
But I was so happy to be in here with Teddy that I didn't even look at. I just let Teddy go do business. He was on the bus, you know, because Mike would want to be on the bus sometimes while he wasn't in the lab.
Right.
So I was like, okay, well, let Teddy go out there. I'm going to be in here doing work. So while I was in there doing work, I was in there with Pharrell making beats. So-and-so. Pharrell was like, yo, this record right here is crazy. I said, you want to rhyme on it? Go ahead and rhyme on it.
So Pharrell was at the time working for Teddy Riley,
yes,
right? Which is crazy.
In Virginia.
And that had an indelible effect on his
And then all the stuff that I was making, like when Pharrell was getting on and doing little things here and there, it was more him and Chad doing it together. I made this song called Full Cooperation for the Death Squad. After that, Pharrell's pattern was Full Cooperation for Mystical Shake It Fast and Danger. And then Jay-Z's I'm a Hustler Baby. It's all the same pattern off of this one record, which is Full Cooperation.
But he credits you with that.
Exactly. And and that's what the whole thing really came from. I guess whatever sound that he was creating at the time, I gave it to him.
Now it's
not give it, but I guess he was influenced by it.
Yeah, and it's crazy because you could connect the dots from when y'all was working in the studio together.
Right, exactly.
It's ironic.
It's online though too. It's a song called Boot Knuckleization, which is again the Teddy Riley term, but again he's on that record produced by me.
Yo, it's kind of ironic too, man, that you're working with a young Pharrell, but just in terms of like the whole trail, like you were the first person to really incorporate a Marvin Gaye song into a hip hop hit with the song Music, right?
Well, the vocals, because don't forget the Let's Get On by Boombastic was the first Marvin Gaye record song that was sampled.
The instrumental,
used. Right. But as far as the vocals of me trying something at that level, yeah, I don't think nobody knew those vocals existed to even try something like that. But your mind too has to be somewhere to try something like that.
But you were successful with the Marvin Gaye sample and Music. And years later, Pharrell gets slammed on Blurred Lines, man. What do you think about the whole Blurred Lines?
Yeah, Jan was just up there with Ed Lover. She spoke about the whole. Ed Lover said, "Yeah, she spoke highly of you." I'm like, "Yeah, I gave her $150,000."
Jan,
Marvin Gaye's widow.
Okay. Now, what do you think about the whole Blurred Lines thing, man?
I think that, again, believe me, when you heard the record, we knew it sounded like that.
Yeah,
and maybe I thought Pharrell did give them that, but I can understand as a producer how he could have been like, yo, I didn't mean to do that.
I was influenced by this record.
I was influenced by that record.
But
it was close.
But it's funny. I spoke to Pusha T because I did an article with Complex, and I was like, yo, man, like from an attorney's ear, from a listener's ear, you know, Blurred Lines was got to give it up.
It sounds, when they did the mashup and you put them both together, it's identical.
But Pharrell was like, yo, the way, Pusha T was like, the way Pharrell works is maybe he's got a photographic memory or a musical memory, but he really wasn't sampling.
No, I believe that too.
That's fucking crazy.
I believe that too.
That's crazy.
But your mind, believe me, your mind does hear it. And you know the bass line to give it up in your head, regardless. Like, you know the bass line to Sexual Healing.
Right.
You have it in your head. Now, if you rocking and you don't know and you're going with the song and now the song is going, it's hard to believe that he didn't say, yo, this thing sounds like Marvin Gaye.
But that also speaks to how much of a genius Pharrell is.
Yeah.
To really create this record out of his mind, not really listening to the record, although he's been influenced by the record. That's crazy. You think how you ever get down on your knees, man, and praise your God about how, you know, you guys, particularly in the early ages of your career, man, stages of your career, ducked the whole sampling thing, like you guys sampled a lot, but the fees weren't as crazy.
Yeah. Well, again, in the beginning, we got hit by Erick Clapton, but for Strictly Business, but again, he only charged me $10,000.
$10,000 is nothing.
Nothing.
To start your career.
Like again, Biz Markie to get hit the way he hit, and because he really messed everything up when
that was a landmark case.
That's a landmark case. But again, in the beginning, Roger Troutman got his dead $10,000. This was stuff. This came afterwards, though, so they could have really messed it up for badly. This is not before we came out. This is after the records came out, and it was just $10,000.
Right.
That was unheard of.
There's no statute of like if people want to go back and
I don't think there's a statute.
I don't, because people could find things like 20 years later. You know.
I don't think there's a statute, but I think people are not go digging into the crates. But let me ask you something, man. When y'all sampled the whole darn family, 8 minutes of funk, 7 minutes of funk,
right?
Did y'all? Was there any issues with that sample?
No,
at all. Because years later, I was working on a Jay-Z project, and when he did "Ain't No Nigga," I remember they were a problem with that record. There was a problem with that record, man.
Because again, at the end of the day, I found out that my company did pay.
Okay. The whole darn family or whoever.
Whatever came, because it came from the breakbeat.
Right.
So we didn't have to pay that because.
So you had to pay the record company.
Ultimate Breakbeats had got the publishing.
Right.
So.
They had the license.
Right. So whatever happened with Jay-Z and them had to happen with the publishing company of Ultimate Breakbeats because they owned it. That's why I didn't have no problem. I was like, I ain't go to no family. I went to Ultimate Breakbeats. But if Jazzo got it from the original record, then that's on him.
Then he had to go. Yeah,
I got it from a breakbeat.
That's crazy.
Yeah, with the gay family, you said you gave $150,000, right? But what I remember hearing, that she could have kept the whole. She gave like 35%.
She gave me 35% of it. She didn't have to give me.
She
none
gave
of
you
it.
publishing.
Yeah,
which is crazy, man.
She gave publishing because again, I think that when I talked to her, we was very cool. She was very nice. I saw Nona Gay came out. The Sons came out. Nona was a star then, she was a
that's right.
big movie star, but she still came out and was very respectful. Because again, you got to imagine you sitting home, the state's not moving, might be got a few bucks coming in, all of a sudden some guy come out and be like, yo, because it was 200, it was 150 to her and 50,000 to that lawyer of hers.
That's crazy, man. Yo, you also speak, man, about the difference in beat making and production. And when you look at a lot of the cats right now, the big business right now seems to be making beats. But I heard you talking about certain records that you produce, and I want you to talk about it again. Say a record like 4321, where you have these incredible MCs. The shit is already dope. Talk about how you arranged that record so that it became the hit.
Well,
that it was.
42-1 was done by the track masters as a demo, whatever. And I heard the demo, and I couldn't believe that track masters was, they was doing the 80s like Puffy and them was doing, and it was on this 80s track. And I'm like, wow, this is, who picked something like this for? Some rappers, Red Meth, DMX, L to be on the beat like this. So I told Kevin Lyles, give me the record. Let me see if I can do something to it. So the highest record out was Put Your Hands, Busta Rhymes. So I just made Put Your Hands. And if you listen to 4321 and Put Your Hands, you could play both of them together.
They blend easily.
The bass line, the hi-hat, the kick, the snare, and the shaker is all the same. So the Busta Rhymes going, ba-doo-ba boom, boom, boom. I just said boom, boom, boom. That's it. It's the same record.
Who had the best verse?
But then even arranging, like you heard how they came.
Yeah,
in
but
order.
of course there wasn't no order.
Right.
They didn't have Red and Meth together. They had LL first, whatever like that. I ain't hear none of it like that. They just had Red and Meth and them switched up. They had I think like LL first. Then they had Redman, then DMX, and then Redman. It was like not in how I would do it. Of course, I had to put Red and Meth together because Red and Meth is always together. It sounds good together. So, and I had to make, after Red and Meth go, DMX had that Stay Out the Dark. It was like, oh, this is going to come in right after, after Method Man. It feels better. Then I wanted to make a break in between that because it's Todd's record. Right. So he can feel, so he give that 4 or 5 tracks to make for it can come in so he can come in with his thing. But LL's was rhyming really fast, whatever flow he was giving me. So I had to chop the first 4 bars up, just chop it to make the sentences flow. That's why I'm ad-libbing. That's why Cannabis was like, and Cannabis was my boy, because Cannabis was a Death Squad member at first.
I didn't know that.
He was the first, but I had to ad-lib LL's verse because I had spaces. Right. So Cam was like, yeah, the only verse you ad-libbed on there was LL.
But it was his record.
Exactly.
And you wanted to give him.
No, it was I was chopping his voices up. So I had to do ad-libs to fill in the parts that he wasn't rapping in. Cause I had to, it was some fast rap he was doing in the beginning.
Right.
So, and it was not how I felt it. So I just chopped it.
Which is crazy.
So LL wasn't rapping like that. I chopped that whole first 4 bars of how I wanted to hear it.
Which is crazy, man, because that's producing. That's production. That's like
that's somebody who just, my mind, I can't even explain people in my head because they won't even, they hear things and might think that is okay, an easy job, and the stuff that we had to work with was impossible to do things that I was doing back then. We didn't have that sampling machines to do all that. I was doing that with S950 the same way that Law Professor was doing it, and doing it with cutting, splicing 2-inch reel and doing stuff differently. It was crazy because even at the time when I was, doing How High, I did 2 versions of How High.
That's such a crazy record.
And How High had 2 versions. I made a hardcore version. What I did was, Ice Cube and Dr. Dre had a song called Natural Born Killer. So I made my own Natural Born Killer version. If you play How High, the original version and Natural Born Killer, it's the same beat. I always did that. Always made my version of somebody hot shit, but made it my version, but you can never tell. But if I tell you to go do it, then you're going to be like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Tell us your hand in Reservoir Dogs, man.
Well, Reservoir Dogs was a thing where,
with Jay and Rockefeller.
Right. Well, my thing was, again, Rockwilder was a person who was down with my camp, and
one of the Def Squad producers, right?
Right, and we had this loop. Me and my boy Pop, and we was like, "Yo, this stuff is not bouncing right." So, Rock had fixed up. So it can have, cause the loop was flanging and we couldn't, even me, I was like, it's not working. Something's not right. I had the bass of it.
What does the flange mean? What the
flange mean that in the loop it got sounds, but the drums wasn't. It was flanging because again, when you play in the loop, it's not live. I mean, it's live band, so it ain't like something that you made that sequence. As long as the line while the loop is going, it's gonna fall off.
Right.
And the MP was.
I don't know what the fuck you talking about, but I'm just saying right because it sounds good as a story.
If I make something inside of in the machine, it's going to be on because it's counted in numbers.
Right.
Because I did it, playing it, I programmed it.
Right.
You can't program a sample. All samples are live bands.
Right.
So eventually, they're not playing on a synchronized clock. That's just a drummer giving his time. But eventually, it's going to fall off because it's live time.
Because you can't control it because it's already.
You can't control it.
I got you.
And that's what was happening. So in the NP, you can control it in the NP. And Rock had an NP. So that's what, how that came about. And then I was like, yo, Jay, I got something for you. Whatever. It was 2 beats. It was a beat I made with a Maxwell sample and that one. And he was like, yo, I got you. And at the end of the day, I didn't know Benny Siegel. I heard about Source Money. Again, how's that order going to go, too? Because, again, it's the Locks, Source Money, and Hove.
Yeah. So, what was the role you played in?
It wasn't the role that they kind of already made that
right.
as far as what they're going to do on that.
Right.
But as far as Jay-Z saying, put more beat on there was no more beat left on the record. So he's like, put more beat on that joint. Nigga, the record's almost 6 minutes. You know?
That's crazy, man. And I'm sitting here looking at you, man, like there's an empire of artists that you could have signed to you that you just didn't sign. I mean, I'll go down the list right now, man. You had the Wu-Tang.
I know.
You had Nas.
Yeah.
You had Rick Ross. You had Ludacris. You had 50 Cent. You had The Game.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck, Eric?
I know. I was young though, man.
Right.
Some of them I was young, and some of them again that I was happy with where I was at. For some reason, you just don't. Listen, man. The Biggie Smalls thing is a blur.
You didn't see it.
It was a blur.
Right.
But again, when I did Hitting Switches, and Puffy and Hype Williams did the video, Biggie Smalls was at every scene.
He was on the set.
And again, I didn't even really realize that.
And you didn't know that he could spit.
Nah, Tracy Waples said, Eric, this guy named Biggie Smalls that's down with Puffy, he's like, please get me on Eric Sermon's solo albums. My album has this, whatever, because they was listening to it at our cribs. Like, Biggie was like, you got to get me on the album, give me an album. And I said, listen, I already got somebody on my album.
Right.
Because I got Keith Murray.
Right.
Whatever, I got people on there already. You know what I'm saying? And no disrespect. And I had a Jam Master Jay, God bless the dead, bought me some kid named Joe Sinister. And this kid was crazy.
Was Joe Sinister off of the main sources?
I don't know where he's from. I don't know that he was with Jam Master Jay and he hung out with Onyx. And
right.
Redman said, Eric, is this dude with Onyx with a backpack? And I said, Reggie, he better than you. He says, man, I don't know, but homeboy nice. And
right.
when I met him, I was like, this kid is phenomenal. But I never heard Smalls rhyme.
Right.
This is just my boy telling me this. But again, it's a blur. You know me, I'm famous with
yes.
a whole gang of money, man. I'm not.
And you're young. But Nas, you hear Nas, and you're like, what's this done language?
The language, it wasn't even a dunny. It was just the language of where he came from. See, all my rappers, again, K-Solo had the Spellbound thing. Dr. Effects had the Biggity Wow. Whatever. Redman had the metaphors out the ass, and me and Paris was who we were. So at the end of the day, whatever, I just didn't hear it. I couldn't hear it or really feel at the time what was going on there. So it wasn't that I didn't think he wasn't dope. It just wasn't something that I caught right away.
Right. And you also talked about how you might have been jaded because you were around two of the illest MCs, Redman and Keith Murray. So if Cass wasn't jumping off the paper, fucking with them lyrically, you was like,
right, because of the techniques and the styles I had in my camp.
Right.
Especially again, Reggie and DOS Effects. You know,
Right.
DOS Effects changed the music business.
They did. But what about somebody like a Wu-Tang, man? Like how did
Wu-Tang Clan was the fact, like when I went, my boy his father had a church in Staten Island. He knew, the Wu-Tang Clan. When I went to the building, I met Raekwon first. I went to Raekwon's, talked to Raekwon the whole nine. Then the rest of the Wu-Tang Clan was out there. So I took a picture with them on my iRock. That picture out there somewhere. I don't know where it said. I had it, but I hope somebody else has that picture of they was around my iRock. Took a snap. But again, I didn't know. And it was 90. You know?
Yeah.
He
was Prince Rakim at the time, right?
No, the RZA I didn't meet.
Right, okay.
I met Shala, which was Raekwon.
Raekwon, right.
Even though Method Man and them was all in the picture, I didn't talk to either one of them or nothing like that yet. You know? But Ray was trying to get on. But again, right past him.
But how about somebody like The Game, man? How did The Game come across?
The Game, we just got finished talking about this story too when I saw him in LA just recently. Just the fact that, you know, whatever, my man D Mac had him and brought him to I was at the mall. So meet me at the mall, the Fox Hills Mall in LA. And I said, told Game, yo, spit 16. He was like, what is that? He never heard the phrase before.
Right.
Cause he's not in the studio, he's not rhyming, so he don't know about 16 means 16 bars.
Right. And then Game talks about, I just saw Game talking at the screening of his documentary, and he was like, bars, if you ask him to rhyme, he rhyme for an hour.
Right, exactly. So when I heard in the other interview, he said, yeah, I was going to sign with Erick, but I don't think Erick was ready yet, so I signed with 50.
Right, that's crazy. And 50, like you had 50. You had 50 was at your
50 did How to Rob.
Right.
He was hot. Next door to me lived Corey Rooney, which is, again, Sony, which is Trackmasters, who had 50 to begin with. My boy Bernard had 50 Cent too. They was, you know, I guess co-managing. So I had 50 in my basement. We just rocking songs. So I was like, yo, what we gonna do for a first single? And we had this song called Heat Wave. You don't do it like we do. We don't do it like we do. We keep it gangster. And I sampled KRS-One's The Bridge Is Over.
Right. And
play the bass line on top of it. And next thing you know, the record's heating up, and then he got shot.
That's crazy, man.
Mm-hmm. But we made about, like in my basement now, I probably got like maybe 4 or 5 records that, you know, nobody would never heard.
50 Cent Raw.
50 Cent Raw, yeah.
That's crazy, man.